Hello and welcome to this SwiftUI video. My name is David Thorne. In the previous video, we talked all about how to create this custom image view where you pass it a URL and that then goes off in the background and it downloads the image for you using your view model. And if it does have an image, it displays the image in the center. Otherwise, it will display a progress view showing loading. All right. And whilst we did that, we talked about how to utilize the likes of the cache and using the cache policy saying return cache else load. Now, this is all well and good, but when you use the URL shared session, you're not really going to get that cache. However, it's just good practice to understand what the cache policy does. So in this video, we're going to implement this one actual cache itself to show you how we can use a cached response rather than actually doing the request. So with that said, let's come down to the bottom and let's add a button here, and we will have the title, and it will say then reset, and in the action we're going to say self view model resources equal to nil, right? And then we're going to say view model load, and we're going to load it once again. All right, nice and simple. So if we press the button, we're going to see it's going to do these requests a whole bunch of times. Super simple. And above the image, we want to say text, and we want to say then view model cached. And if it is cached, we're going to say cached. Else, we're going to say loaded. Obviously, we're going to have to come to the view model, and we'll add another published here, and we'll say cached as we just said before, and we'll set this to false. All right, now when we do get the actual image itself, we want to obviously come to when we do actually get the image itself, we will then say self cached is equal to true. All right, because we know it's cached. However, this URL session shared is going to be where our problem is, so we're going to have to pass in this cache itself, right? Or we create this cache at the beginning. Well, what I like much better is to create it at the beginning. So we'll just come up here and we'll say private var cache is equal to URL cache, and inside of this we'll say cache. We'll create it, and we're going to create a 100 megabytes cache for in the memory and also the disk capacity. So now we have our cache, and we could say it on a file destination, but we just want it, it's just going to make it nice and simple. So rather than using this URL session here, we're just going to say session, and we'll create our own session. We need a config as well. Now the config is going to be URL config, session config default, and on this config here we can set the cache here to be our own cache, and on the session as well we can set our cache cache policy also to be return cache else load here. So rather than using this session, we're going to use this session as well. And what we could do is we could say session here is equal to URL session equal to shared, but you know, we could just pass the session in, but there it kind of like defeats the object of having this default cache, this default one. All right. So with that said, when we now reset this, we start. Let's just see what problem we've got. Cannot find text. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's better. So let's now just reset this, and please. And we see that we're now getting the cached version. All right, happy days. So how can we stop this request actually from happening before it happens now? Well, that's also quite easy. We can say now resource here. So let's just say resources equal to, and we want to say URL. We want to say the cache here. We have our own cache for response for request, and if we have one here, we can say resources equal to, and then remember resource mapper, and we can say here res and data, and we can just return straight out from this, and here we can say cache is equal to true anyway. All right. Whoops. So cached it is, if cached. And we can set that to true, so we don't even have to do this request anymore. Okay, so let's just run it on the iPhone 15. And once that's up and running, we should now see that it has been cached, right? But let's just run it again, and let's not do cached here, so we can do that it's loaded here, and I'll reset the simulator once again. By resetting the simulator, we know 100% that all the caches have gone and any history from the app. So this time we can properly see that we do have. It should say loaded on this one, and then when we shut down the app, it should say then cached a second time. So let's run it again. Okay, so now that it's you can see here that we got loaded at the beginning. So if we just shut the app down and we come back to resource loader and load it again, you can see cached, right? So if we now delete the app completely from here and delete it, and we run it once again, you can see we get loaded. When we reset, we can see we get cached. Let's just shut the application down. And when we come here again, you can see we get cached. We reset it, and the whole time here when we reset it, where's our reset button? Reset, and we'll do view model cached is equal to false as well. Let's run it once again just to see what we can get. When we reset it, we're always getting cached here because we're never doing the new request because we've got the cache for response, right? However, if we then come to here and say, we'll say delete, right, instead, then we come to our view model, and here we can create another function and say delete. And now inside of here, we can say cache, remove all cache responses, and we'll say resource, self resource is equal to nil, self cache is equal to nil. From there, let's say self cached is equal to is false, sorry. And then we come back down to our view instead. We can say view model delete, and we can say view model load URL once again. All right, so now we have our delete button instead, and when this decides to load once again, we can say delete, and we can see loaded, right? And we can say reset, and we can see cached. We can say receipt, delete, and we can see loaded, delete. So the thing is about the one thing that you've got to take in mind is this remove all cache responses. It isn't happening straight away. You've sometimes just got to have a little bit of patience with it. That's why we have to tap it a couple of times, right? Because at one point the cache did get removed, and the first time we got the cached response, you see there it went from loaded to cached, and then the second time it actually went. So, and when we do reset, we get cached all the time. So you have to be very careful with, if you're going to remove all caches, then just don't expect them to be gone instantly. Just expect the framework or whatever it is in the background to delete the cache when it wants to. All right, so it's an arbitrary amount of time that it can take. Sometimes it happens really quickly. Sometimes it takes a really long time to do. So with that said, here you've got the different stages that we can download the cache. We can get it from the cache by saying cache response. And if we don't have a cache response here, this is going to be nil, and we're going to skip straight past this code. Otherwise, we're coming down to here, and this is where we're saving the resource. We don't have to add stuff to the cache. The URL session is going to do that all for us in the background. All right. Now, this video is not about the cache. We could change the different policies here, but that's something for you to have a look at, the different policies and so on. With that said, I hope you've got something out of this one video. I wanted to make this because I didn't want the last video being too long, and I wanted to leave the question open for you, because using the URL session shared with the cache policy doesn't necessarily mean to say that you're going to have a actual cache working for you until you actually create it yourself. All right. With that said, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and do all of the other social media things that you can do out there. If you do have any questions, feedback, or concerns, then let's start a conversation in the comment section down below. My name is David Thorne. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Ciao, ciao, and goodbye.